All right. Hey, y'all. If this is your first time in here, thank you so much for being here. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, Mass. So I come on this podcast because I get to talk to amazing people that do things to empower other people by sharing their stories. So uh, I have over 300 episodes. If you are struggling in any capacity, I promise you, you'll find a podcast episode on my podcast. You can Google your struggle and pair it with Celeste the Therapist, and you will find something to help you get your life together. So that's what I originally started the podcast for. But then I really enjoy talking about relationships. I don't like doing couples counseling, but I love talking about relationships. So I asked Jeff Rogers to assist me with that, and I'm gonna add him to the stream. Hey, Jerry. So I was like, Jeff, can you help me talk about relationships? And what did you say, Jeff?
I said, cut the check or I'm out. But so far, it's all Celeste has been promising me any day now. What's up, y'all? It's me, Jeff. Good to see it.
Yeah. So he came up with this idea because I was, talking about relationships, and he was like, why don't we let them ask questions? And I'm like, I like it. That's good. So it's been over a year since we've been doing this, and we really enjoy. Well, I enjoy. I don't want to talk for Jeff. Do you enjoy working with me, Jeff? Because I don't want to speak for you.
That's yet to be seen.
Okay.
That's yet to be seen. We have to see how it works out. But it's been good. I'm back again, and so that's an indicator of.
It's true. You know what? Every time my clients come back, I'm like, I guess sometimes I can't read them at first, and when they show up again, I'll be like, I guess y'all really rocking with me.
I guess something's working, right? They keep coming back,
and they keep coming back for you, girl. So before we start, so we're gonna answer your questions. First, I want Jeff to tell you who he is and what he does, and then I want to make an announcement. Go ahead.
Sure. My name's Jeff Rogers. I'm an executive coach, trainer, facilitator. I work with folks, organizations, individuals, and what all the work has in common is, of course, that it's helping people to change themselves, right? Whether it's an organization, whether it's oneself as an individual, the idea is that doing that self-work that makes you more of the you that you aspire to be. That sounds sometimes very touchy-feely, and it can be, but in fact, what I really mean is literally like giving yourself a tune-up, right? The kind of spring cleaning of your mind and how you operate, right? That makes things efficient as they can be. And so that's what we do. And so relationships are also a big part of that, particularly how you engage with others. Ideally, they would be transformed by their interaction with you, right? Everyone that meets you is better for it. That's one way to be. Or you could go around poking people in the eye, stealing from them, and making enemies and burning bridges. So we're going to see which is which when we get these questions today. Mm-hmm. But that's what I do.
Thank you for sharing that. So that's what Jeff does. He also has a website, rogerslead.com, if you want to connect with him. But I'm going to announce it now and at the end of the show. So Jeff and I are going to go live again, like literally live again.
We're not going to go live. We're going to be live in person.
We're going to be live in person. This is the flyer. If you subscribe to my email, you already know because you got the email. But we are going to do this show in person again. It went well our first time. So we're doing it again. And I'm excited. Are you excited? I don't want to speak for you.
I am, but I don't know the date because you didn't say it.
Oh, yeah. So the date is Saturday, May 14th. And so you can go to the website and just get it for straight cash, or you can go to Eventbrite and pay the fee. So it's up to you. I gave you two options.
Look at that. Look at that choices. So you can come out, you get to meet me and Celeste. Well, I mean, through our security. You're not going to get to talk to us directly, of course. But the Secret Service will let you all wave to us and take a picture within 18 inches. You have to be 18 inches away.
Okay, so we have a few questions. I'll start with this one. I really don't want to, but I will.
Okay. And I have no idea what these questions are. I never know.
So someone sent me this post and asked me about my thoughts on it.
Sure.
What are our thoughts on it? So I'll put it up.
Let's do it.
So this is from, how do you pronounce her name? Tashina? Is that right?
I think of it as Tashina. Sometimes you hear Tachina, but either way,
Oh, okay, okay.
I think Tashina feels more right to me, right? Pam from
Okay. Pam, I want to say Pam. So it says, honest question: what can we as Black women in America do to stop aiding in the emasculation of Black men in America?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is someone kind of attached this question and wanted to know our thoughts on this question.
All right. And so,
So
what do you want me to go first? Is that the face you're making?
yeah, you could go first.
Well, this question it really assumes a lot, right? Because it assumes what can we as Black women do to stop aiding in the emasculation of Black men. So it assumes that this is happening, and we all agree on that, right? And so that's kind of loaded. So what do we mean by the emasculation of Black men?
Oh, I think he froze.
I froze. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Uh, question: all
Oh
agree
wait.
that there's. Can people hear and see me,
Now
Celeste?
I can see you. Yeah, I just upgraded my internet today, so I was like, I know it's not me. My son's been harassing me to upgrade the
I know
internet.
it's not. I know it's not me. I think it might be you because
No, he's been harassing me, and I did it today.
All right, all right. So the question is, it assumes that we all assume that Black men are being emasculated in America. But so let's break that down a little bit because I hear that used in a way that makes some sense, and then I hear that used in another way that I would frankly say is sometimes weaponized against LGBTQIA plus people, and I don't want to participate in that. So, in the way in which maybe Black men have been emasculated, right, is the I would say that if you have like traditional norms and beliefs about the way a household is run, and a man is a provider, and things like that. Well, certainly the fact that there's systemic racism and stuff like that in this country, that means that it's been hard for a hardworking, honest Black man to provide for his family for the last 400 years. I think that that's a real type of emasculation that is built into our system. It's getting better, but it's not cured, evidenced by the fact that a Black man with a college degree, on average, will not have more wealth than a white man with only a high school diploma, right? So that's like a form of emasculation, meaning that you can work very, very hard and not be able to provide for your family. And if you're somebody who says, well, the man is the provider, that's the Christian way, that's the Western way, then that is emasculating. And what we can do to not participate in that, I guess, is all of us work to dismantle that sort of system. Here's how it can sometimes be weaponized, right? This is the idea that as LGBTQIA plus stuff is being accepted, and inclusion is people with from that spectrum are being more included. The idea that somehow takes away from manliness in men. That every time you see a gay Black guy, that means, oh, they got to him. They got to him and they snatched his masculinity, and they're using that to make Black men less masculine because they're afraid of our masculinity. I do not think that is an accurate appraisal of that situation, right? I don't think that a gay Black man who is living his truth and living his life is, or a trans woman, right? Someone who was assigned male at birth but is now identifies as a woman. I don't think that is somehow an attack on Black masculinity. So I want to be clear about that, because this question is so vague that people can read into it what they want. And a lot of people read that second version into it, and I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't think it's true. Celeste, what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love how you started off with the kind of the pay difference and things for Black men and white men. I think that there's a lot of expectation for Black men where we don't have systems are in place for Black men to do the things that they may want to do. So the question is very vague. So I didn't even think about the second part of the LGBTQ community
But you've
because I
heard
have
that
heard
before, though.
I
You've
have heard that before. Yeah, I have heard that before. I was thinking more on the other end of the fact that a lot of times, I, I feel like a lot of times in social media and the media, um, Black men are grouped into a group, and it's typically a negative statements being made.
Mhm.
And so, like, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's accurate. If I say it, people are like, well, maybe it's the people that you're around, and but I just said it's not true. It's not everyone. And so I think that's where a lot of that, I mean, that's my assumption of the question of what she said, because there's so much, like, I see a lot of hate and less grace, even with Russ Russell
Wilson,
Wilson.
Tiara's.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, and like, he's being the poster boy for a lot of hate. And I just think that a lot of times in our community, in the Black community, we can be very divisive, and be all or nothing, and we are and I just think the community part of us as a community doesn't happen when we say, like, well, men are dogs, or men need to do this, or men should pay for dates, or men. And it's just like, you're not giving Black men a chance. And it doesn't negate what, it's unfortunate if you bring up things about Black men, and then Black women are like, well, what about the Black women? So it doesn't negate anything. It doesn't negate the Black women's struggle or the Black men's struggle. But when I see that stuff, it just bothers me. I just wish we can all come together.
Right. Well, the speaking on one hand, it's useful sometimes to speak we will say, on the population level. So an easy example is, on the population level, men are taller than women. That's just true.
Mm-hmm.
But individually, certainly Lisa Leslie is taller than Jeff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So two things can be true at once in that way, that
Mm-hmm.
on the population level, men are taller. And oftentimes when people say, dogs have fur,
Mm-hmm.
right? They recognize there must be individual dogs that do not have fur. But on the population level, you should expect dogs to have fur, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the same time, you got to be careful when individuals are involved, because sometimes it doesn't matter. So, for example, even if you said men are dogs, and by that you meant men are unfaithful. Well, individual men who are faithful are going to hear that and stridently object and say, like, why am I doing all this so that I can still be besmirched?
Right.
And so for that reason, it's better to simply not speak in generalities, even though I know what people mean.
Mm-hmm.
I know what they mean. They don't really mean every single man is taller than every single woman, or every single man is unfaithful, or whatever it is. So one thing I'll add to this emasculation. So there's something very sociologically interesting about the Black community, and we'll try to sum it up quickly. So basically in all known societies, have some form, and I'm not even using this as an attack, okay? But I just mean it is what it is. A human universal is some form of patriarchy. And by that, I mean the idea that if there's a big leader, tends to be a guy, right? The big leader, whoever, like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a chief or a king or something like that, tends to be a guy, right? And but something happened interesting in the United States post-Reconstruction, right after the Civil War, which is that the way the rules worked, the men were particularly kept. Black men were particularly kept from participating in the economy in an equal way, so forth, so on, in a way that caused, and men are like disproportionately lynched and stuff like that. So it caused the women to step up, right? Jail, right? That's another example. Being incarcerated caused the women to step up. So in a good way, the Black community has long been more feminist than the average American subculture, right? So for example, in Meet the Fockers, right, the Ben Stiller movie, he's scared to meet the dad. What's the name of the actor? Robert De Niro. But in Soul Food, of course, there is no grandfather. There's really no like father or men at all. It's a bunch of women, and everyone's scared and they're reverent of the grandmother, right? And we know a lot of people who are raised by their mother, raised by their grandmother. So to some degree, we as the Black community have somewhat of a matriarchal society nested inside of some patriarchal expectations, right?
That is so true.
It's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing in that, like, Black women been working a long time, and Black women been running the household for a long time, and been independent in a way that their peers from other cultures have been lagging. However, there's still patriarchal expectations, and sometimes even the women have patriarchal expectations. So you see these memes or these complaints where they say, like, it'll say like, a woman will submit when she finds a true alpha or something like that.
Yeah.
I interpret those, and those, I tend to see those in our community, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is because we have an expectation that on one hand, the women are groomed and raised to be tough and independent. And on the other hand, a Western expectation is that the man will lead. So they combine to make a situation where it's mixed messages. Now, I'm not here to say which one is right.
Right.
Okay. I don't actually think either one is correct
Right.
in some way. Well, this is how it should be. There's no should. But what I think I see it manifest in is, that's why we have, you know, these questions. They always circulate in memes. Your mother and your mother.
Who comes first?
Right, who comes first? Who gets a plate first at Thanksgiving or whatever it is? It's those questions. What they're really getting at is, do you submit to your man? Do you serve your man? Or is someone else above him? Or who should sit in the front? His mother-in-law, or his what? All these complicated things. I think we ask those questions a lot because we have these two veins of living: the matriarchy and the Western patriarchal norms at the same time. One weird example of that is it, you know, people from India tend very strongly don't eat beef. Most people from India don't eat beef. Cow is sacred, they don't eat beef. People, Muslims from the Middle East don't eat pork very strongly. Black Americans, do we eat pork or not? Many Black Americans don't eat pork, and many Black Americans say there's nothing more Black than a big thing of pork ribs. We do both very strongly, and it's unusual in that way. There's no consensus, and so this is that same thing.
That's good. I've never heard it explained that way, but it makes a lot of sense on why there's so much controversy. We are living in two worlds. I really, you eat pork.
All we just talked about, all Felinda put is, I do. I just want everyone to know
I eat pork.
As long as we're on that, Jerry too. I eat pork, all right.
You don't hit the black nerve with that pork.
Right. I eat pork too, and I was in a relationship where she didn't eat pork, and also she didn't eat pork, and she thought it was like kind of lowly, right? Like she didn't just say, "Oh, it tastes bad." She's saying like, that repulses me. So like I'll eat bacon, and then like I guess I'm off limits for the day or something like. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, what's blacker? What's blacker? Like, no, we're gonna make some salmon. That's not blacker than eating pork, and you know it's not. We're gonna have salmon cakes. Incorrect. We're gonna have pork ribs because that's what we do here.
Especially at my cookouts, we don't do the beef ribs. We do the pork ribs. It's
exactly. So it's that same thing brought to the relationship, right? Carlisle says you have the online social media world, you have the real world. That's true. I don't mean to say that every meme is like a fact in the world, but I think what they do is, what the memes identify is schisms. They identify the splits in a community, whatever it is. So like the reason why Will Smith and Chris Rock blew up is not because Will Smith is so bad. It's not because Chris Rock is so bad. It's because it's debatable what should have been done. If Will Smith had beat Chris Rock to death, no one would be asking. If Chris Rock had said, everyone has had sex with Jada Pinkett Smith because she is promiscuous, and also I did too, no one would say Will Smith shouldn't have hit her. It's because it splits us down the middle that we talk about it. It's the controversy that's interesting.
I gotta get to I got a few questions, but I just want you to know, Felinda says you can't put barbecue on salmon.
That's right. You can't put barbecue. Felinda, do me a favor. Felinda, text me after the show, and we got to go get something to eat because you think right.
How can I find my purpose? That question came in.
What do you think, Celeste?
So for people looking for purpose, I think purpose is important. Purpose helps us. I feel like we talk about this every episode, maybe, or it ends up being something that we talk about.
Mhm.
But I think I know purpose drives me. Whether I'm talking about my podcast, my practice, my speaking, my kids, my spouse, and so I am clear on my goals for all of the areas of my life. There's this like wellness wheel. And if you have never seen it, you should Google it. It's really dope. I always have my clients like print it out, put it a screensaver on their phone. If they're struggling, look at all the areas and look at where they're struggling and really create goals around each area of the wheel. And so the thing about purpose is that you have to be clear. And I think just like Carlisle said, the different types of worlds. I think a lot of times people base their what they think they want off of what they are seeing and not actually on what they want. And a lot of people, as I speak to them on a regular basis, are not clear about what they want. They'll talk about the unhappiness and where they're not, but not where they're going because they don't know where they're going. And so I would really encourage people, if they are struggling with what is my purpose, to grab Google Wellness Will. I'm all about free resources. Google Wellness Will, pick those areas apart and really look at where you are in that area and ask yourself what it is that you want because I think the purpose could be a numerous of things. You can go ahead.
Yeah. I think that life is a buffet. And so imagine you go to this buffet. It's really, what's that place? I don't, do people know this? I know this is an international show, but in Rhode Island, there's a famous buffet, Nordic Lodge, it's called Nordic Lodge.
Oh, I never heard of it.
Okay. So what it's what people, it's like only open certain days or whatever. But all I know is you pay like $100, but it's like a buffet with lobster and all this crap. But it's like it's a buffet that's an event. And so here's the point. Sitting outside going, what should I eat when I get in there? What should I eat when I get in there? What should I eat when I get in there? That's not how you find out what you like the best. What you do is you go into that buffet and you take a little of this, a little of that. You try stuff, you taste it. And then what you like, you go back for more. Worst case scenario, you got a plate with a little bit of stuff that you don't like that much. Don't finish it, man. Don't finish it. Go back and try more stuff. I'll tell you one thing I never thought I'd be doing. I never said, well, one day I'll be hosting a relationship podcast on Zoom or whatever, on teleconferencing with a therapist. Do you get what I mean? Like, it's not like, well, what happens is you know you're going to do that when you're little, and then slowly but surely you build towards it. No, I tried different stuff. I tried all types of stuff. Would y'all believe that there was a time when I really thought I was going to go to the NBA? No one else thought that. No one else thought that, but I really did. Okay. But I sampled. You can laugh. It's funny.
I thought I was going to be a singer. So,
Well, there you go. Right. And you was
I was hitting them notes in the shower though. I ain't going to hold you.
you was doing all the Mary J songs and stuff
you
like
know
that.
it. You already know the vibes.
But I was going to the NBA. But while I was doing that, as long as I like thought I knew what I was doing, I kind of had it wrong. It's like saying, like, I don't have to try nothing else because I know what I like. Instead, you got to try a bunch of stuff. What ends up happening for me, I would do various work and jobs. And at all the places, I would say, you know what? This place needs like a renovation. They do everything. They do things that don't make sense. And I wish someone would let me fix it. And I would try to work with it, and I would basically fight and thrash around. And I bounced around working different jobs, always wishing to change and help the place change. And eventually someone gave me they said, okay, you can train these people. I worked at a place where they said, you could train these people. We're desperate, so we'll let you do it, even though you have no experience. You can train these people. And I ended up getting good at it, at training people and teaching people. And then when I did that, I said, damn, now this I like. Doing all this other stuff, okay. But this I really like. Basically, I found the thing at Nordic Lodge. I found the thing at the buffet that I liked. So I went back for more of it. And now all I do is go around, and I have a knack for meeting people, going to organizations, and seeing based on their goals. Well, here's what you could do to get there. Basically, how could you change and get closer to what you want to be? That's all I do all day. I narrowed it down. Now, when I go to this buffet, I know what I like. But I only did that by sampling a bunch of stuff. I was not born knowing that. It was not obvious, right? None of that. I don't think there was any way for me to like do this on purpose. It had to happen the way that it happened. And when people, the one benefit is, for me, I was so unhappy with the status quo that I never lasted anywhere so long, because it's very unlucky to have like a C- situation, because it sucks, but it's not rock bottom. So people limp along. So I would rather you have a terrible relationship than just a kind of C- one. I would rather you have a terrible job than a C- job. And that's what happened to me. My life was so untenable that it never let me get comfortable doing something I didn't like. So you try different stuff. You can. So for me, that's just how I am. But you could simulate my experience without the pain if you just try a little of different stuff. Whatever you think you might like to do, actually try it. You think you might like to skydive. You think you might like to learn a new language, start learning. Don't think about it, try it.
Yeah, that's what the thinking part is what holds people up. It's the action part, right? They think the thinking is there, but the action's not happening. And I tell you now, and I feel like I'm a good therapist. That's what people say. But I didn't grow up saying I was going to be a therapist at all. I just wanted to make some money. You know what I'm saying? I was about to be a nurse, and then I don't like blood and stuff, so I had to switch it up.
Right. Exactly. That's all it is. So when you say how you can find a purpose, that's how. The idea, you think you're going to see something and it's just going to like on TV, the light will shine on it and go, oh, oh. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is you'll try something while you look, and then you'll realize, hey, okay,
yeah,
I got a knack for this. I kind of like this, whatever it is, along with more things that you'll try that you'll say, no gift for that.
Yeah. Look at it like trying on shoes. You don't always pick the first one. So so it doesn't just come in a box. Just because you see people on internet, you may see me and be like, oh, Celeste has it all together. Like, I didn't start this way. It was a process that I always try to be transparent about, because I know what people do and I know what the mind will do. The mind will look at everything that you don't have if you allow it, not look at what you have. We can work on controlling those thoughts. I'm going to put Jerry's question up because the next two questions are a little more relationship related so that we can answer her. How can I get out of the stuck feeling? I feel like it's similar to what we just said, but you go ahead, Jeff.
Well, so notice he actually didn't say, how can I
she said we did this for a long time. She comes every time, and one time she was like, I'm a she. I was like, sorry,
Jerry. Of course you're a she, Jerry. Of course. Everyone, how could I? Sorry, I'm misgendering you. Notice how Jerry said she feels stuck, right? Specifically feeling. So I lead right with feeling follows action. So is the idea, Jerry, that first you'll change your feelings and then you'll get unstuck? I don't believe in that. I know that doesn't work. Here's what will happen. First, you unstick yourself. Where do you feel most stuck? Is it that you feel stuck in your job? Then apply to one job a day for 3 weeks. And then after that, you can apply to one, because by then you will have looked at all the postings. After that, apply to one job a week, right? Eventually, you'll get unstuck from the job. If you're stuck in your relationship, well, how unstuck do you want to be? You can tell the person that, hey, we're in a rut and I need to do something different. Or you can straight up say, hey, I'm deleting you and I'm downloading Tinder, right? You got to do it first. You got to make the change first. Anything, if you say like, well, I know what I'll do. When I feel like changing, I'll change. You're not going to feel like changing. Changing's scary. You decide to change, you do it, and then you know what you'll feel? You won't feel stuck. You'll feel exhilarated. Sometimes you'll feel scared, but you'll feel exhilarated and you'll feel like you're making progress, because even when you do something you don't like, even when you had a bad date, you went on a date. My job, my town, all that. All right, Jerry, are you on parole? You can't move, right? Your job, what's your contract for? 30 years, 40 years? I bet you it's at will. I bet you here, you put it in, Celeste will talk, but you put in, you say you're stuck in your town. What have you done this week to get unstuck from that town? I'll eat my hat if you list that you looked at houses in another town or whatever. What did you do this week, Jerry, that would get you unstuck from this town?
While Jerry's putting it in, I just want to put up this wellness wheel for people. I mentioned it, but I'm just going to put it up real quick because, like Jeff said, when the feeling part is an emotion that's going to change. A lot of times we'll say we feel stuck, but if we look at the areas of our life, we're not stuck in every area of our life. But because one area we may be struggling in, we will group it into our whole life and we make it this grandiose thing, and then we feel paralyzed when we're never even my kids, they got a mom that's a therapist and I'm always about words, and I'll be like, if I say I have to go to the bathroom, they'll be like, no mom, you choose to go to the bathroom, because it's a choice in everything that we do. Even going to the bathroom is a choice, and so I think that when we can be mindful on how we're framing it, we can find ourselves not actually being stuck and realizing that we have choices. But if we don't say that, and if we tell ourselves all of it, I'm just stuck. And it's like, technically, even in relationships, like, when people come to me, and they reframe that thought, their situation doesn't change right away. But the way they're thinking about it and the way they start creating a plan for it changes, because now they understand that they actually have choices. And the reason why we sometimes feel stuck is because at some point in our life, we may have been stuck before we were 18, where we really didn't have dominion, where we really didn't have choices. And so that feeling becomes a familiar feeling, and our mind doesn't have concept of time. So then it starts to create this energy of feeling stuck when you're not really stuck.
Very good. And I see Jerry put, okay, Jerry's going to make me eat my hat. I looked at a house on the net. Okay, Jerry, well, you got me, but surprise, I got you too. Because now we know that looking at a house alone does not make you feel unstuck. So then what must you do next? Well, you could, if you could start saving up for a down payment for a house or for the cost of moving. Or you could, if you got all that already, then you could actually go look at another apartment. Or if you got that, you could, literally fill out the application. Whatever it is, that would be the next move. Being scared. So if you're stuck and unhappy where you are, right, then you're scared of what? That if you go somewhere else, you'll be stuck and unhappy. You won't be any more worse off. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Basically, whenever it's a tie, pick the change. Yeah. Sometimes you're in a good thing and you're scared that something else will be bad. But if it's a toss-up, change. Because what you're doing has the advantage of what's called status quo bias. In other words, people just have a bias towards not changing. If you want to know what I mean by that, when you go to the beach, even on a pretty warm day, when you go to get in the water, it feels cold, right? But then as you walk in, eventually it feels warm. Then it feels cold to get out of the water.
It does. It's so true.
Right? It's just wherever you are, the change feels a little bit like, oh, maybe I'll just stay in here. No, do the change. So Jerry, next time we talk to you, you should have done something. Now, I don't mean you should have moved and bought a mansion. You can't do everything in a day, but you can either make progress or not.
Yeah. And when we make progress, celebrate that process, right? Because if we're trying to get to Z and we're at A and we get from A to B and then we be like, oh, well, Z so far away, of course you're going to feel like not moving. But if you can say like, oh, that's really dope, I just made a move to B. And that's literally the way that I work with people is I help them see that they are making changes, even if they're small. Those small things add up and they help you start to reframe your mind. All right, so you are welcome, beautiful. All right, so let's get to the next question. It says, this one is show it all to me. Okay, so at a crossroads in my relationship, sorry, for people listening. Been together going on 3 years, and I moved here for a career last year while he stayed back in. I just took the state out, but another state. We plan to do long distance, but I can't do it. They wrote in capital letters. That's why I paused. I'm like, meaning like, I guess don't even entertain that idea. I'm like, this is the one part that's in capital letters. Okay, so he doesn't plan to come until next year when he ties up things, pays off his home. What to do? Move on. Open relationship.
Hmm. I wonder how much he even knows you're at this crossroad. Right? This reads like one person has all this going on inside them, and the other person is just going like, "Oh, the plan's going according to plan. I'm going to pay this house off, and I'll live there next year, baby. 2023, that's our year." Meanwhile, this person's like, "I am ready to date other people tonight." And so, one thing you could do, it depends. It could be the distance, or it could be second thoughts. You know what I mean? So, on one hand, it could just be literally, when we're together, I never want to break up. I never want to do anything else. Or it could be, this person's about to make this big permanent move here. And that's like a commitment, because once they do that for me, I'm going to move there for you and we'll be together. Then it feels like, damn, I've really committed. Do you know, Celeste, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so the challenge here, I think, is the thing people, this writer, I'm sure, doesn't want to hear, which is the communication. Been together for 3 years. Been in a long distance relationship for about a year. So it looks like moved during the pandemic too, which is a very lonely time to split up. Just said, oh, we'll do long distance for economic reasons. I got this job, you got that house. When the house is paid off, this person's about to pay off a house, by the way. That's pretty impressive, right? But when he comes, then everything will be perfect. I might say to him, well, listen, long distance is harder than I thought. I don't know that I can last a year because I feel very lonely. This doesn't meet my needs. Right? There's been several conversations about concerns. Well, but see, the word concern, that's not really, the word concern is not appropriate for this. This is not a concern. This is, I can't do it. I'm not concerned that I can't do it. I'm telling you, I can't do this. So then there's a list of options. Doing long distance for a year is not on that list because I can't do it. What is on the list, what was floated, is open relationship. Most people don't necessarily love that, but could happen. Split up until you come here. Kind of like an open relationship without the benefits of even retaining the other person. Change the timeline. I wonder if that couldn't happen. Right? You say, well, could you move here a year early rather than us break up? Maybe. If we really can't do it, I don't know. But the point is to try to come up with something that takes off the table the thing that you can't do. Right now, that's on the table. And it's not, I don't know, people know the phrase, it's all's fair in love and war. It's the idea like, you thought you could, but you can't. So what else is there to do? Like, I can't do this. It's like, I thought this thing's so heavy, I thought I could carry it, but I can't carry it. I can't do it. I can't get it any further. So what are we going to do instead? It's not concerns. It's, what are we going to do instead of this?
No, I agree 100%. We can't put the states together, right? So the issue that's being read from our standpoint is that there's a long distance that you no longer want to do. So, if the communication is happening, it sounds like the choice would be on you. And so moving on and open relationships are two different things. It's like two extremes. Because an open relationship, meaning that you're still with the person. Moving on is that you're not with the person. And I think trying to figure out between the two would be a conversation. It sounds like you're solidified in the fact that and what are we in April? There's no compromise on his end on timeline change. So there's no compromise on his end on timeline change. She says, which means that if you cannot do it, you're technically not stuck. One time on the show, Jeff talked about sometimes the thing that we need to do or want to do may feel hard. And so 3 years is a long time to be together. And if you can, we have the right to change how we feel or change what we want. And it does sound like both of you all plan to do this long distance thing together initially, and plans changed, and that's okay. It's a hard thing to come to terms with. But at the end of the day, um, no one owns us. We're individuals. And so I don't see any other answer other than which one is it that you want to do.
Right. In like a negotiation,
Mhm,
there's each person has their like basically their boundaries, right? And then there's the area of possible agreement. So if
mhm,
I'm willing to pay up to 100 and you're willing to sell for as low as 90, then there's a $10 range of possible agreement. If I'm willing to pay up to 100 and you won't sell and you won't go any lower than 120, see that gap right there? That means there's no possible agreement. If that's really true, that you won't go below 120 and I really won't go above 100, then
yeah,
there's nothing to do.
there's
Then it's
nothing.
okay. Then I will go to another car dealership or whatever it is. So that same thing. I can't be in a long distance relationship for a year, and you can't move here in less than a year. That is that.
Yeah,
That is
that's the
that.
thing.
If this question was how do I change their mind, I admit you. The only thing to say is I want you to know that there's no ulterior motive here. If we could be together sooner in 3 months, then I think I could make it 3 months. But I'm dying of loneliness and I can't make it a year. I'm
Mhm,
not happy.
mhm. I agree.
So Linda says,
Um,
literally write down pros and cons of each path, weigh each of them. If it's super heavy, put it down. If you can weigh a particular direction and move forward with that direction quickly and comfortably on paper, it's possible in real life. Okay, that sounds like a good strategy, right? Literally just laying it out. I will say it sounds like she's past that in the sense that she's just saying the one thing I know is off the table, a year.
yeah.
That is off the table. So this is not about negotiating with yourself. I take you at your word, letter writer, that a year is not going to work. If it's not, and he says less than a year is not going to work. Okay, sir. Well, I'll see you next lifetime. It's nothing. It doesn't mean anyone's evil, but you just got needs.
Okay. That's good. I like it. And for people that are listening, may not have this specific situation, I really want to stress the fact that because in a lot of my sessions, I deal with relationship struggles, and a lot of times it's like waiting around. Like this waiting thing is not in the long distance thing, but in general, whether it's for a relationship, whether it's for a ring, whatever it is, you know, I think that we have to remind ourselves that we all have choices, and we have to know that sometimes the choices that we may need to make, especially if things aren't working out on the other end, um, it's going to feel hard. Jeff says a lot of times we know what we need to do, but a lot of times we don't do it because of the feelings, and there's no way to get around that part. We're human beings, we're going to feel.
The thing is, oftentimes a lot of questions fall into the category of how do I make someone I love change their mind?
Yes. Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that it's not just that like, oh, it's unethical. There is no way. Because if it's so easy, you change.
Hmm.
If it's so easy to change about long distance relationship, then you change and like it.
Hmm.
You can't. Oh, and now we've solved it. He's in that same position, except for in the other direction.
That's so good. You're right. All right, this one's a little longer. I would really want to do my meme, but I don't think I'm gonna have time. So, but we're supposed to be here for the questions, not my memes that I love to show. All right, so this is pretty long, so I'll just read it. All right. So I've been dating a guy for 4 months. In the beginning, he told me he wanted to be in a relationship with me, but I've noticed that I keep repeating myself about things I don't like him doing, and he keeps doing it and isn't showing progress. The things that I've asked him not to do, he's been continuing to do for 4 months now. He says I'm not being patient with him and I'm expecting him to change overnight, but I just want to see improvement. I have abandonment issues from my father, so knowing my worth and let me finish the rest. So knowing my worth in relationships It's hard, and I find myself chasing or over explaining. I feel like I should leave him alone, but I never had to do 3 screens. I'm
Oh no, but I was laughing because I feel like I should leave him alone, but I just knew she was gonna say, but the D is too good.
sorry.
That's what I just knew was coming when you turned the page. But,
All right. But that usually be the issue. Or is
well,
it an issue?
something works, or it would already be over.
But okay, so I should leave him alone, but is that the right thing to do? Or am I reacting from my abandonment issues and not giving him grace to grow?
I gotta love. This is a person that's determined to be reflective.
I know. I swear to God, I was thinking the same thing.
Right?
I ain't never seen nothing like this.
This is a
dope.
person who's looking at the mate, but also looking at themselves.
I
It's not
love
just,
it. Yeah.
I'm dating this person. How do I strip him down to nothing and rebuild him in the image of my ideal man?
Yeah, this is dope.
It's not that. So
Let her write it. This is dope. I love it.
It's good, right? So let's be reflective. Could you go back to the first part, like two screens back to this essay? All right. So the phrase, the things I've asked him not to do, he's continued to do for 4 months now. Now, here's what's important. He says I'm not being patient with him and I expect change overnight. That tells us that he has agreed to change, which is a little bit different than if just saying, like, I always want to change him and he won't change. In this case, he has agreed, I will, but I need time, right? So how does all this work? Well, first of all, Celeste, we won't use you as an example, but let's use a hypothetical woman that maybe you know very well. Is there a hypothetical woman you know very well that she loves her husband, but he still does things that drives her crazy? Do you know anyone like that, maybe, Celeste?
Like crazy in a good way and a bad way.
Yeah, like they love you. They love their husband, Jonathan, but even though they love them, sometimes they still do something that drives them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to know your marriage very well, Celeste. That's what a marriage is like.
Mm-hmm.
So, to some degree, the first person you got to look at in a relationship for any long-term relationship to really work, look at what you can accept. It's easier for you to accept someone for who they are than it is for them to change who they are. Mm-hmm. Okay. So sometimes, if they brush their teeth loud, somehow they just brush their teeth loud. Shut up. Just give them a break. You know what I mean? Some things are like that. Like, it is annoying. They do little weird, they have foibles. You just put up with it, okay? But then there's other stuff. Sometimes they don't text back for 72 hours. Okay. That's probably not a foible. That's the kind of thing that many people would consider like, whoa. Even outside of abandonment issues, 3 days of disappearing out of nowhere is like a lot for people that's supposed to be in a relationship. I'm not saying you got to text or talk every hour, but 3 days is a lot of time. So in that case, you do basically, a person should lay out their boundaries and say, hey, listen, to me, and we talked about having no implicit contracts, only explicit contracts, and say, look, to me, I'm not trying to track you. But if I text you on Monday and I don't hear back from you until Wednesday, I mean, that's scary to me. It does make me feel abandoned sometimes, whatever it is. Part of being in a relationship is relying on each other. Maybe I need you. If you don't answer back, maybe I think you've been kidnapped. So what do you think is a reasonable amount of time to answer back? Not 71 hours instead of 72? No, I'm thinking more like same day.
Yeah.
Like waking hours, same day. If you can't do that, I get it, but I don't know if I can be in a relationship with somebody who takes 3 days to text back. And then you negotiate it like that. And then if he could be like, look, sometimes I just don't feel like texting for a few days. Okay, that's another one of those area of possible agreement doesn't exist. But it sounds like in this case, he said, you're right. Listen, I've been used to being on my own, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I'm iffy with the text. And you go, okay, well, can we work on it? Because I don't want to sweat you, but my God, 3 days is a long time. And then they keep on doing 3 days, 4 days. What does that really tell us, Celeste? They've said 5 times I won't disappear for 3 days, but then they do. What are they? Should we believe what they say, or should we believe what they do?
What they do.
There you go.
And Jeff and I doesn't have to know the issue for the solution, right? I think it depends on what's negotiable and non-negotiable for you. 4 months is a short time, but it depends on how egregious the thing is, or how, much it goes against your standards. And that's only something that you can decide, because what goes against my standards and Jeff's standards are going to look like two different things. I will say, like, I really love the fact that you are paying attention to the abandonment stuff. I have those same struggles, and even after 13 years of marriage, I can still feel triggered and feel that inside of me. But I'm more aware to not allow it overshadow my lens on my relationship. And 4 months is a short time to be in that situation. So my like thoughts about this is to really think about what's negotiable and non-negotiable, right? Anything from brushing your teeth to like disappearing for days at a time, right? For me, for you disappearing for days at a time, for me is a non-negotiable. Brushing your teeth loud is we can negotiate that. I can just get out the bathroom or whatever, right? But again, it depends on what works for you. And so I think that's something that you need to really think about. Like I started off earlier, a lot of times we think we know what we want, but we don't really know what we want. And I know, especially when it comes to relationships, I've had people complain about not, getting gifts or different things that they are seeing. Well, this person does this or that person does that. Or maybe when you have abandonment struggles, you may think you want this picture perfect type of relationship that may not be, there's no such thing, right? And so like it may be hard for you to deal with any little increment of struggle. And so like I just would challenge you to really think about like what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you.
Right. The again, well, let me see. Flynn says the boundaries is the distance in which I can love you and me simultaneously. Ooh,
that's actually really good.
You're trying to take my job. Very good. That's very good. All right. The idea is there's it's hard because it's not, we say boundary as if it's this hard line when really it's like a gradient, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's things where you can put up with, things you can't, but it's not always clear. So a lot of it is the self-work of going like, but I know that if you're somebody who goes, every time I have an issue, it's my mate's obligation to change, you won't have a mate very long.
Yeah.
It has to start with, if change is so easy, change yourself to put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain things you can't put up with. But it's really, I said the brushing your teeth loud thing, but really, if we went through, your husband, he likes his, he could eat the same thing every day. You need variety. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to adjust for variety, but you got to realize it's going to be on you. He's just happy to eat cereal every night.
Yeah.
You just to go like, okay, what I have to put up with is that it's on me to spice up our cuisine.
Yeah.
But then certain things are like literally like when they get mad, they scream and call you names. And it's like, I don't know, man. There are people that somehow they do that in a way that feels healthy for them. I'm skeptical, but there's people in this world that they kind of argue rough, but no one has hard feelings. But for a lot of people, getting called all types of stupid B's and all that, they say it doesn't matter how good the good times are. This doesn't work. Right?
And another thing I'll say too, when I feel like my emotion doesn't fit the situation, I'll do some like internal work before I approach my partner, where I'll like pay attention to what it is. Because before I didn't do the internal work, and I was just like yeah, right, and not really understanding what it is that I even wanted or what the struggle was. I wasn't naming it. I wasn't clear. So when you can get clear with yourself, especially if the emotion feels really like overwhelming for the thing in front of you, that might be a sign to kind of check in with yourself.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. You mentioned the abandonment issues. That's being self-aware, but one also realize that is your issue. Meaning, it's like if you say I have abandonment issues, so I'm needy and that's okay. Ideally, you'd work on that to where you say, I had abandonment issues, and that's the work I've done to be someone I know that I myself am enough, and I'm not unrealistically nervous of being abandoned.
Yes. I love it. Jeff, how would you wrap up the show? Um,
Send all. You don't have to when you buy tickets to our live show, which is on.
no, wait, this part right here. You know how I like to do like what's the theme? What do you want to say about like
Oh
all the questions and stuff?
no, I was going to say that the theme is for people to send the money for the tickets to me personally. Don't worry, I will handle it. Don't you don't have to give it to Celeste. Give it to me. Um, when I look at all this today, as is often the case, I always love to see people, they want to do better, they want to feel better, right? Oftentimes, that what all these had to my recollection, what all these had in common is fear holding people back, right? The fear of change, the fear of many of these had a fear of change, where basically people are saying like, there's this thing that I really don't like, but if I change, I'll have to change. If I change the situation, the new one will be scary. I don't like the way this 4-month guy's doing it, but he won't. He's not adjusting. But if I don't have him, then that will be a change. My long distance thing, I don't like it. I know I can't do it, but if we don't stay together, then I'll have to change. And so recognizing that, change is a constant, you should expect it one way or the other. Your life, when people say, one of the main things I coach executives on, they have a list of stuff they're going to do when everything calms down. I got good news and bad news. Things are never going to calm down. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
They're saying, when I don't feel overwhelmed, I'll tackle that pile. That's the same as saying I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
You will always feel overwhelmed because life is happening while you plan.
Yeah.
So you have to simply make a decision that I'm going to simultaneously work on the urgent things, the proximate urgent things, but also the long-term important things.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called the Eisenhower matrix. Okay. And the Eisenhower matrix is 4 quadrants: things that are urgent, things that are important, things that are important and urgent, and neither. Mm-hmm. If it's neither, who cares? If it's just urgent, of course, handle it right now. If it's urgent and important, people handle it. What happens is people leave the important things alone because urgent things always cut in front of things that are just important. For example, it's urgent to finish this report tonight from my boss, but I was going to go to the gym. The gym is important because my health is important, but it's not urgent. I can skip it and nothing will happen. Well, something will happen. You'll be a little less healthy and a little less further towards your goals, and you won't feel as good about yourself, and your clothes won't fit, and your heart will be full of gunk instead of pumping healthily. So you have to prioritize important things as well as urgent things, rather than just letting the urgent things dominate your life and refuse to do anything that's not absolutely urgent. Mm-hmm. And so all these people's problems, they're stuck in the status quo because even though they're unhappy, there's nothing, they're not urgently so. No one said that their mate is trying to kill them. No one said if they don't make a decision, they're going to get left in a day. They're basically saying the status quo makes me unhappy, but I mean, one more day won't kill me. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Or are you just refusing to do the important things in your life? Move if you want to move. Yeah. Have the talk about that long distance relationship does not work. Mm-hmm. So forth, so on. So that's what I was.
I love it a lot. The feelings will have you feeling stuck. Even if there's something good happening, a good transition, a good change, you can still feel those same kind of feelings. It's just change, So like we announced at the beginning of the show, Jeff is going to grace me with his presence. You guys can meet us live if you're in the Boston area and want to come out and have a great time with Jeff and I. Jeff kind of runs the show. I'm just there drinking wine and eating chicken.
Celeste definitely had some wine at the last. Like, Celeste, you really relax. Are you here with us?
I was like, I'm good. Jeff is running the show. So if you want to come check us out, we're going to do this exact show, but not completely exact because you all will be answering the questions. I won't. That's why I was chilling. I had my wine and my chicken. I was just there because it was. My name is on the show.
Y'all will be there. We're gonna be. The audience is gonna be talking, getting in. And what's interesting is how often, when the audience disagrees, hearing how thoughtful y'all can be. It really, I think dope. Everyone's enriched by it. It's fun.
It's really dope. I'm grateful for the audience, for people that support and are going to support this show. So it's May 14th, Saturday. Daryl's, I lied, Underground Bar and Grill, or is it? Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Underground Cafe and Lounge.
There you go.
I was mixing both of her things together. So yeah, come out, go to CelesteTheTherapist.com/shop, get your tickets. Last time they showed out, up they sold out, and I was nervous because it was raining. I was like, oh no, people aren't going to show up, but you guys showed up, and I can't have y'all just showing up because I can't fit everybody in there. So I don't want y'all to be like, yo, Celeste, it's me. I'm gonna be like, yo, I can't, son. So yeah, get your tickets early so you don't miss out. Jeff, any last words? Oh, go to rogerslead.com to learn more about Jeff. Anything else, Jeff?
I look forward to it, man. We're doing
All
it,
right.
Celeste.
All right. Bye.